Money, 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 money.
Making that money, rain on me. Making that money, living that dream.
Probably the hardest thing, Ritesh, is finding money to build your business. And I guess the real question about this section is, how do you find money? Who is smart enough or dumb enough to give you money when there's no proof that it's going to work? And what is this world of venture capital look like?
Yeah, look, I think, Nas, this is a very interesting section right after the pitch. Being able to come talk to investors, venture capital, get the capital, and really prepare yourself to build your business to the significant scale that all of the entrepreneurs and the founders dream is definitely a critical part of the journey. The first question that one needs to ask is, do you even need capital to build your business? If you do, then venture capitalists apply, or angel investors, and so on. Let me begin with my story. When I knew that OYO was something I wanted to do, the first hotel was set up. I thought this is the time, and First Hotel had partnered with us. I thought this was time where I needed more capital to multiply the same thing and create a business of scale. That's when I reached out to raise capital to a few investment firms, and one of them, Lightspeed Ventures, became our first incoming institutional investor. They invested $500,000 at a valuation of $1.2 million, pre-money valuation back in the day.
So what? So you gave them 1/3 of the company in
Yes,
exchange for $500,000.
that is correct.
That's a good deal.
Back in the day, when I went and met Lightspeed for the first time, they asked, how much capital do you need? I said $30,000 or $50,000 will be a lot. And they said, we think as per your business plan and aspiration, you should need $500,000. So I thought to myself, why are these people giving me $500,000? I had never, let me just clarify, I had never in my life seen more than $100,000 in one bank account ever.
Wow.
When I was raising the capital, I felt this is great. I will be able to make a big difference, build a big business. But the day I was told that they're finally wiring the money, I was actually quite scared, because I thought to myself, if they're investing $500,000, they expect that I will be able to return to them $2 or $3 or $4 million, which is a lot of hard work. I'd never done that in my life, that to multiply money at such a large scale. So I was quite nervous about it as well, but I'm sure most entrepreneurs go through that.
Why would they give $500,000 to a random person? Why were you deserving of that money?
Let me try and flip it back to, if you're an entrepreneur, how do you think about it? And I'll also share how I felt about it, right? That is, in the long term, when companies become successful, the size of the outcomes are so large that the investment and the percentage ownership doesn't matter. So for instance, Lightspeed stock at OYO would be worth today close to $1.5 billion for investing. Initially they invested $500,000, but later they invested another $10 or $15 million. But that's still quite good to invest $10-15 million in one company and be able to generate around $1 billion or $1.5 billion as an outcome from that investment. In similar context, if you are an entrepreneur today, remember that the investor, the venture capital firm, or the angel need you as much as you need them. You need them to create a big successful outcome, and they invest their capital primarily to partner entrepreneurs and founders such as you, who know and have the conviction and have the ability to create large companies which multiplies their capital and eventually returns it back to them.
Okay, but not everybody has Lightspeed, Ritesh. So if I'm starting now, how can I get money? I don't want $500,000. I want $50,000. What are the avenues where I can get some venture capital money to see if my idea works?
You know, over time, the opportunities and avenues of capital for an entrepreneur or a founder who understands the segment, wants to try and really launch a new business, has a good pitch document ready, have massively evolved. the one thing I recommend everybody is an accelerator, an incubator program, or anything like that. A lot of you may have heard about Y Combinator and the likes. There are just so many of them around the world. I myself went through an accelerator program when I was starting my company. The second option is to potentially pursue university funds. Increasingly around the world, there are university accelerated programs that can help you launch your businesses. The third is government funds. Lots of governments around the world have started setting up small grants to be able to help companies launch and be successful. The fourth is AngelList. You could go to a platform like AngelList and be able to apply for your company and reach out to investors who may be willing to fund your business to a small extent. And of course, then you have the venture capital firms. Then you have people who are from the same industry and want to join you. One of our earliest investors was Deepak Shadadpuri. Deepak had invested in multiple hotel, restaurant companies and wanted to bet behind businesses who were thinking about this industry in a slightly different way. So there are a bunch of opportunities that exist around yourself, which some part of it we will share in the resources for you to be able to reach out and engage with investors who you can reach out and make sure that you tell your idea and get started. And within this, you'll find it very surprising how you go from access to limited or no options of capital to multiple options of capital, where multiple people want to pursue the opportunity of partnering with you. And suddenly the question is, who do you choose to be your partner? Who do you choose to your partner is a very critical question. In that perspective, a lot of people will tell you it's the money. So at the end of the day, anybody who's willing to invest money in your company, why don't you take it? I disagree completely, having seen this for the last 6 to 7 years. Remember that when you're bringing in somebody, you're almost bringing a business partner who's not as involved as a full-time active partner would be, but nevertheless is somebody who's incentivized to make you more successful, somebody who's incentivized to make sure you don't fail. In that context, it's very critical that you have a great chemistry, a strong sense of trust, but most importantly, that they can add value for you. In summary, I would encourage you to use this very simple 3 or 4 point framework to decide which investor you want. There are 4 things that I'd like to encourage you use as benchmarks to decide which investors you want. The first, do you think you have a good chemistry with them? The second, do you think they can add value to your business? The third, do you think they have done a good job of enabling other entrepreneurs to be successful? I invariably always do reference checks on the investors who are investing in our company. And last, but probably the most important, is that do you see yourself as being partners with them for not 1 quarter or 5 months or 8 months? Do you see yourself being partners with them for 3, 5, 7, 8 years if needed? That is extremely crucial. And within that, in the early years, I used to care about, will they demonstrate commitment by investing in my next round? Now, well, that may or may not matter over time, but whether they're truly your long-term partners or not matters. Story time. When I started the first format of the business, which was the travel agent that I talked about to begin with, it didn't work like I told you earlier. And I knew I wanted to build OYO, and most people who were my earlier angels or the accelerator program investors who invested $30,000 at $140,000 valuation, they did not think that it would be successful. So I reached out to all of them and said that I have decided to set up OYO, which is a new business. I'm sorry that I failed in the business that you invested the money in. I will try to make sure that I find a way to be able to repay this money to you over the years through either after I get graduated, if I get a job, or if I build a new business or any of these things. And most investors said, these were 10 investors who had all put around $3,000 each. So they said, don't worry about it. If you lose this money, we understand. We make these risky decisions in the first place anyway. I was very thankful to them, but at the same time, I kept thinking to myself that this is the capital that I have raised and I should make sure that at some point of time I return. I built Oyo in the same company, and much to the pleasure of these investors, this $30,000 eventually ended up becoming many millions of dollars. That is, of course, a very positive outcome, but I wanted to give you an explanation of if you think it's not working, you should be transparent almost as you would to your business partners and saying, this is working, this is not working, here's what I think, what do you think? And more often than not, the early investors, angels, accelerated program investors, when it is a very risky phase for a company, they understand that they're making a risk investment. But at the same time, what they expect from you is honesty, ability to communicate, and being able to seek their feedback as you make decisions.
So should an entrepreneur go and raise capital?
So to begin with, I think a lot of businesses don't need capital. And sometimes when they raise capital, they end up making it more challenging for them. So for instance, if you want to set up a salon, maybe you can set up a home salon to begin with, make sure you earn a little bit of money, reinvest that, and build a professional salon and grow from there. It's not that hard relative to if you want to build a software by which you want to make sure that consumers can come in and find other people who are beauty salon owners. In the two options that exist, the second one requires upfront investment to make the software, upfront investment for the people to go and sign up enough amount of salon owner, some marketing spends to be able to get customers to come try out the experience, and that upfront investment is reasonably large versus that of setting up a home salon as a trial, earning the money and reinvesting in your business. So there are goods and bads of raising capital. The goods are you can control 100% of your company. You can build your business slowly at your own pace, and you can make sure that you can make decisions of changing the business whenever you like without talking to one more person. On the other hand, the goods of raising external capital is you can build opportunities that are required to make upfront investments with software engineers, with something like that. The second thing that you're able to do is be able to make sure that you can pursue large opportunities in a shorter period of time, but that definitely comes with the implications of working with business partners who are around yourself. Now, of course, they do not, I know there's this misconception of saying that they're control freaks and they make all the decisions. That's not the case. The reason they're investing in your company is because they think you are a good decision maker. Otherwise, they would be building the same company themselves. There is a reason why they're investing in your company.
So investing comes out of trust, not out of control.
Yes.
I trust you with my money. Go and make it bigger and build something of value.
Problems are in abundance. Resources are in abundance. Everybody wants to find the company and the entrepreneur who will make a huge difference. You have the problem. You have put together your thoughts about it. I believe the right time to start your company was yesterday, but yesterday is gone. Hence, the right time is now. So I encourage you to start a company if you believe you have a big problem you want to solve right now. I thought it would be a good idea for you to also hear it from somebody who's a true venture capitalist. I'm at the end of the day just a founder or an entrepreneur. And hence, you didn't hear it from me. Hear it from Bejul Somaya, who I believe is probably one of the best venture capitalists around the world from Lightspeed.
Hi, I'm Bejul Somaya, a partner at Lightspeed, and have been investing in early stage technology companies in India and Southeast Asia for the past 12 years. Look, the venture capital world is really about providing early stage capital and high risk capital to entrepreneurs who have bold visions of the future. But the reason they're doing that is because they subscribe to a vision of the future that an entrepreneur is presenting. We think about just how disruptive that could be, how innovative, how big, if you get it right. Now, there's a lot of obstacles along the way, but hopefully most venture capitalists that you'll encounter are willing to go on at least that thought journey with you. And the more convincing you can be about that future, the future of an industry, the vision you see, why it should be that way, likely the more excited a venture capitalist will get about the business and about the opportunity. And the reason that we invested in Ritesh and Oyo that early was a few things. The first is that I've been a student of the online travel industry for, at the time we invested, for over a decade. And one of the things that we know is that the largest part of the profit pool is in hotels. Now, when you look at India, and we looked at what had been happening in hotels, really the biggest part of the market was these budget properties. But virtually none of that had moved online. And the reason it hadn't moved online was because you had a lot of supply and a lot of demand, but the demand didn't trust the supply. You just didn't know what you would get if you booked a 2-star hotel online. And really what Ritesh's vision was there's all of this supply. What if we organize it? What if we curate it? If we bring trust and standardization to that transaction? What would happen then? And the answer, and what we believed, is when you do that, the demand and supply will match. So that was sort of the power of the idea and our view that there was this large market, but it was very broken. And here was a founder who had seen a way to fix that market. But the company was very early. At that time, I think there were 3 properties, maybe 25 rooms. So we weren't really investing on what was there at that point. We spent a lot of time with Ritesh to understand his vision, and there were a few things we found very compelling. One is that Ritesh is one of those unusual founders, and I've come to notice this about some of the most successful founders, where they can be talking at 100,000 feet about something very strategic globally in the industry or in the travel industry, but the next moment they can zoom in all the way down to what's happening in an individual property and even talk about a specific guest experience. The second is the scope of his thinking. So we could be talking about marketing or sales or brand or marketplace dynamics, fundraising, strategy, people, leadership. And with Ritesh, there was this range, his ability to grasp all of these things differently, which is what you as successful founders will be able to need to do. And finally was his resourcefulness. Really between, I think, the first time I met him and we talked about where else companies like this might have been created, and we talked about what had happened in China, and the next time we met a couple of weeks later, Ritesh had tracked down the CEO of a publicly listed company in China and had spoken to him and sucked his brains out and learnt whatever he could. And that gave us the sense that here was someone who not just had a vision, but the resourcefulness to go and suck whatever learning he could out of other people so that he could then think about what makes sense in the course of his business. You know, in terms of success, one of the things that I really remember was we believe that you really only want to scale out a business that is working. You don't want to scale it out prematurely. And in terms of working, I think there's a couple of different ways to think about this. The first is, does the company have product market fit? Do customers want what you have to sell? And you can tell if that's working by getting a sense of engagement, retention, customer feedback, the amount of friction that's involved or expense in getting customers to buy your product. Is it a real effort? Does it take a lot of money? But if it's almost just happening on its own and people are finding out about it and it's more organic, that tells you you've really got something. And then the second is the economic proposition. Are people willing to pay? And can you make money? And so with Oyo, we started out with a very defined geography. And for almost the first 9 months, the company was only focused on that geography, tweaking, making changes to the proposition. And a point in time came when we felt like this is working. So that's an example of success. Well, what do you do now? And I think the decision that we made as a board is really now you have to accelerate. If this is working, we have a little bit of a playbook that's emerged. We know how to get it to work. It's now our duty to really scale this out throughout the rest of the company. So that's the idea of doubling down on success at the right time. Yeah, so when you think about the number one thing that an entrepreneur must have, I'd say in general, but certainly to get VC money, is you've got to have the ability to sell and articulate your vision and the future that you see. Why the industry is going to change. Why a company like yours needs to exist. Why your company will change the industry. And if you think about the importance of sales, you need sales to raise capital because you need to convince investors. You need sales to convince people to join you because you need other really talented people to come on this mission with you. So in all of these areas, you have to convince people about the future that you see. It's really important. Be authentic, be passionate, wear your heart on your sleeve, show what you believe in, and go for it. And I think sometimes that can make a huge amount of difference in the journey. It doesn't mean you're going to get everything right. It doesn't mean you have all the answers. And in fact, when founders think they have all the answers, we really wonder whether they're being open enough about what's going to come their way. So that's all I have, and I wish you all the best of luck, and I hope some of these thoughts were helpful to you. Good luck.